All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Archery Project. I am your host, Zakk Plocica, and I've got another Friday Kill Notes episode for you guys. And the season's almost here, right? And I've been very fortunate to sit down and interview and talk with a lot of different bow hunters from all different backgrounds, and both on our podcast and in my shop, right? That's kind of my life revolves around archery and bow hunting. And I've been fortunate enough to sit down and really talk to some very highly successful bow hunters, some real, I would say, killers, right? Very consistent, successful year after year. And there's some commonalities amongst them, some, I would say, consistent traits that I have seen among these guys. And again, going back to it, these are not guys that just get lucky and kill a mature animal once in a while. They are consistently putting down high caliber animals, whether they are turkey hunting, whitetail, mule deer, elk, it doesn't matter. These guys have really kind of got it figured out and are successful year after year. From public land side of things to private property, they can find success just about anywhere. And these are some of the traits, that I've kind of noticed. And I've got three of them that I kind of wanted to cover and discuss with you guys. And then I wanted some feedback on you guys too, right? I know there's a lot of bow hunters out there that watch this stuff, and I'd be curious as to hear from you guys, your input, as well as what kind of traits you guys see or pick up on the guys that are successful. So jumping right into it, one of the big things that I've seen that kind of separates these guys, and a lot of us have one or two of these traits, but not everybody has all three of these locked in. And that's one of the things I've noticed about these guys is they've got these three traits pretty locked in. And the first one being composure under pressure. Whenever the time comes, they are able to be cool, calm, and collected and execute when the time is right? On that shot, they're dialed in. Not to say that they don't make mistakes, but they're very consistent with it and very successful, and they're able to perform at a high level in those highly stressful situations. If you've ever been bow hunting or any kind of hunting at all, whenever that animal comes out, there's that adrenaline dump and you get that feeling and, buck fever, whatever you want to call it. And these guys are able to, when that crunch time is there, when that opportunity presents itself, they're just cool, calm, and collected and are able to make things happen repeatedly. And I think there's a couple of reasons from the guys that I've interviewed or sat down with. There's a couple of things that I've noticed from them that allows them to be composed under pressure. One of them is they've been doing this for a long time. Right. So they've put themselves in those scenarios time and time again, and they've been able to become good at it. They've done it long enough to whenever the time presents itself, they are collected under that pressure. The other thing too is the fitness side of things that I see in a lot of these guys. So the guys that I've been fortunate enough to talk with, majority of them fitness is a massive portion of their life as well. And you see that carry over into all aspects of what these guys do, right? They have successful businesses, careers, home life. And then again, on the bow hunting side of things, fitness is incorporated in all things that they do. And I think that's important. Fitness has been an important part of my life, but I think what fitness adds to it is, again, the ability to stay composed in those high stakes situations, right? When the heart rate is elevated, all of those things, that adrenaline dump, you're able to, you simulate it to some extent in the physical fitness world. And I think that carries over into the bow hunting side of things, and helps. It's not the end all be all, but I do think it helps you perform whenever all of those things are going on, right? You need that mental clarity whenever the stakes are high, whenever you are, in that situation where you high adrenaline, you only have this opportunity. You've got to be able to stay cool, calm, and collected, and having a high fitness capability adds to that. It makes you able to stay composed whenever all of these things are going on. You're able to bring your breathing down. You're able to lower your heart rate and make a good shot when the time presents itself. And again, composure under pressure has to do with everything that's led up to that point too, right? Being efficient with the gear that you use. These guys, they're not just picking up their bow right before the season for the most part. These guys spend time behind the riser all year long. So they're shooting from different positions. Nothing's new when the time is there. They've been in that situation before, whether they've recreated it, training, practicing, shooting out of stands, off the ground, different positions. It's not foreign. It's like they've been there before. One, because of the experience that they have, and two, they recreate those scenarios in the off season. So they're not just picking up their bow or whatever the weapon of choice is right before the season and taking it out and guessing. They have all of the confidence in the world in the equipment that they're utilizing and then their capability in the woods, which goes a long way, because whenever you start second guessing things and you start raising questions in your mind, you lose confidence. And whenever you lose confidence and you're under pressure, that's when I think mistakes really tend to happen. And so these guys do everything they can to eliminate that. And that's how they're able to remain calm, focused, and have that mental clarity whenever, that massive animal, that mature animal that they've been hunting presents itself. They don't squander that opportunity. They're locked in and able to go through all of those different aspects they need to in order to be successful. And, that's from their shot process to, again, how they pack their gear. There's no excess. There's no waste. They are absolutely in tune with the equipment that they use, themselves, and everything going on around them. And again, the cardio side of things with the physical fitness, the ability to slow your breathing down, lower your heart rate because it's going to go up, right? But if you can calm it down that much quicker and then be in tune with what's happening, it's only going to make you more successful in the woods. And I think that's a massive part of it. So composure under pressure is one of the major things I see. And don't get me wrong, mistakes are still made, but these guys are more successful than not because they're able to stay composed. And when the critical time hits, they're able to capitalize on it and be successful. So that's one of the bigger traits that I've seen. Trait number 2 is the preparation side of things. And this is big, right? Like a lot of these guys that I know, you can talk hunting with them 365. Like it's always on their mind. They are always thinking about it. It's never turned off. And there's a relentless preparation that goes into what they do. So for a lot of these guys, I noticed is like scouting, right? The next season starts as soon as this season ends. So they're in the woods, they're scouting, they're collecting data, they're, marking points. They are ahead of the game always, so that they're not cramming when the season opens up. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Is the preparation that goes into it. And I see that from all aspects of what they do as a bow hunter, right? From their gear, their bow, they're constantly shooting their bow again, making sure that it is tuned, it is set up, it's performing as it is. They're testing the equipment that they use, the broadheads that they're shooting, whatever it is, the arrows, if they make changes, it's far enough ahead of the season that they have time to utilize the equipment, get behind it, and make sure that there's no surprises, right? They need strings, they're getting them ahead of time. New arrow changes, it's done well before the season gets here. Broadhead changes, same thing. And then the other side of that is once they find something that works, they're pretty locked in on it. Like they stick with that until there's a good reason for them to change. They're not constantly changing gear. And again, this has to do with years of experience because they have tried a lot of stuff in the past, but once they find something that works, it's hard to get them off of that. And I honestly can't blame them. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So there's that. And then, you look at their like stands and sticks or whatever, however they hunt, whether it's, a hang on, it's a saddle hunting, whatever. All these guys do all of these different things and they're not locked into one. They put each of these different capabilities into play when they need them based off where they're hunting, whether they're going to use a hang on or a saddle. They're able to adapt and utilize the gear that they need when they need it. And you look at it, I mean, these guys are just always prepared. And like I said, there's no excess, right? They trim the fat. So they've gone ahead of time, and there's an order of operation from the way that they pack and load their gear, right? So there's no excess. There's no wasted movement. There's no wasted gear. They're not taking things they don't need with them into the woods, which is very easy to do whenever you get new equipment, right? You get a new pack, there's pockets in it. You feel you need to load them with something. I see that with a lot of new hunters. You know, there's room here, might as well put something in it. Before you know it, you're loaded down with stuff you never need in the woods. And you know, that these guys trim all that fat, all of that excess is cut and gone. And that falls into the preparation side of things. These guys do not get lucky ever. I mean, they create the opportunity by being prepared for when the opportunity presents itself. And essentially they stay ready. So even if they're, you know, if they're hunting property that they've hunted for years, they have all these data points that they've collected, and they review them, they look at them, and they see what works and see what didn't, and then they apply it to the season. And they're not doing that just before the season starts. They're doing that prior, you know, right post season, so that it's almost mission planning, right? You look at what went well, what didn't, or what your goals are with this, and they have a plan of action that they implement for their upcoming hunts. There's not a lot of guesswork, or they remove as much guesswork as they possibly can. I think that's important, especially if you want to be successful time and time again. The preparation is more important than anything you can do. Being prepared, making sure you're setting yourself up for success, and that's exactly what these guys do time and time again. And then, you know, you question, why are they so successful all the time? Well, it's the amount of effort they put into what they're doing. And that starts with the preparation side of things, and, you know, taking the time, because it's very easy after the season gets done. Hang the bow up, hang up your equipment. That's it. You know, some of the guys I know, they're out there wind mapping properties, right? So way before the season starts, honestly, postseason, they're out there 30 minutes in one specific location, and they're checking the wind constantly, reading it, taking notes, prepping, am I able to access this location? Can I even get in here undetected? What is the wind actually doing in this location? It's one thing to see your predominant winds before you go out and hunt and say, okay, we got a north wind, but depending on terrain features, the lay of the land, elevation, all of these different things, water, rivers, the wind may not be doing exactly what it says on from your weather guide or whatever you're using to get your weather or wind from. So having eyes on the ground and seeing what the weather actually does, or the wind is actually doing in that area, and you can note that and utilize that for the upcoming season in your hunt. These guys are doing all of those things. You know, they have an idea for the lay of the land before the season opens up. If they can get access to a property, they're looking for new properties well ahead of time in order to start mapping them out. And the same thing with new properties they've never been on. They're doing everything they can to eliminate guesswork. So, you know, mapping software, aerial footage before they go on an out-of-state hunt or somewhere they've never been. The preparation that goes up into these things from these guys is at a very high level. And again, that is what really, I think, really sets them apart and makes them successful from your casual hunter who, you know, will shoot a good deer every now and then versus the guy that consistently puts down good animals year over year. So preparation, don't overlook it. It is critical for success in the woods. And again, like everything else, it takes time to develop and understand what is important and what isn't. There's a lot of trial and error that goes on into doing this. And then the final trait that I see that is, I would say, consistent amongst these guys is aggressive patience. Kind of weird, right? Aggressive patience. What does that mean? They wait for the moment, but when it comes, they do not hesitate. They are able to action on something when the time is right. And there's a balance between letting opportunity develop versus forcing it or freezing when it does happen. So these guys are able to essentially create their luck or create opportunity when things aren't exactly going the way that they envisioned it, right? So they're they eliminate the paralysis by analysis, aggressive patience. So I have got a handful of friends or buddies or guys that I've talked to that they've been in stands, right? They're watching things develop in the woods, they're glassing, and they see something happening in the distance, and they know, they're like, that animal's not coming my way. It's not coming my way. I'm going to have to make a move on this in order for anything to happen today. Because what a lot of us do, or what I see a lot of people do, especially a lot of new bow hunters, is there's that paralysis by analysis, right? You climb one tree, you're like, I'm going to stay here. This is where I'm at for the day. Versus seeing things develop around you and not being willing to move. And these guys aren't. These guys are willing to adapt, and they adapt when they need to, and they are able to determine the right times to adapt to a situation that's unfolding in front of them, so that they don't screw it up, and two, they're able to capitalize on it. And there's one guy in particular I know who's done this year after a handful of years, able to get eyes on something off in the distance, watches the situation kind of unfold, and he knows for a fact that animal's locked down. That animal's not coming to me right now. It's not going to happen today. That buck is with a doe. He's not going to come over here. So I'm going to have to create the opportunity or make something happen. And so he gets down, he gets out of the stand, he puts a stalk. He's able to read the wind, see what the wind is doing, read the terrain, find a way for him to put a stalk on this animal, utilizing terrain in order to stay out of line of sight and from getting, upwind of that animal, so his scent isn't blowing over that animal, and make a move on this thing, get in on it, put a stalk, and ultimately become successful. So I think aggressive patience is one of those things that takes time to develop, and you have to really have your woodsmanship skills dialed in. It's not something that just, I think as a new hunter, you go in the woods having, because you can make a lot of mistakes that way. You've got to be able to, again, read the terrain, read the situation, understand how these animals move and act in the woods, and then capitalize on them whenever the time is right. And ultimately that can be the difference between success and an opportunity that you were so close, or a missed opportunity just because you were not able to, action on something, whether you were, paralysis by analysis, or you just didn't understand the movement of those deer, or animal, whatever it is, how they are going to act during a certain time of year or season. So that's a big one, man. I think, and it's kind of cool to watch and hear the stories. I'll give you one more story of a guy I know. This was from a hunt in Virginia. And again, aggressive patience. These guys were out, they were on a hunt, they're hunting whitetail, and it's not a great day. It's kind of windy, it's raining, there's not a lot of movement happening. And, they're patient, they're in the tree, they're watching, they're glassing, right? They're trying to create opportunity, try to locate something, boom. They get eyes on a really good mature deer on a cattle fence line that's bedded down. This guy's name's Joe Kolashevsky, great individual, very talented hunter. He's been on the podcast a handful of times, just a wealth of knowledge. And they get down and they come up with a plan, right? They game plan this thing. So one guy stays back who keeps eyes on this animal, and they're communicating back and forth, I think via text. And so they're able to get eyes, come up with a plan, work down around this animal, and come up and put a stalk on it. So the video that he's got is super cool. And I've referenced this in a handful of podcasts, but he's at full draw from about 40 yards. He draws the bow and he starts slowly creeping in. This animal's bedded down, has no idea he's there. It's raining, it's windy. He comes up, he gets incredibly close to this thing, puts a super clean shot on this bedded buck, and boom, success. So again, creating your luck, aggressive patience kind of go hand in hand. And these guys that are successful year after year, they are able to do that. They are able to action on things, and they do it without hesitation when they know the time is right. So aggressive patience is another massive trait that I see with the guys that are successful as bow hunters. And again, these guys are bow hunters. These are hunters. These guys, their focus is not shooting X's. A lot of them, you'll see people say that their shot process isn't the best. These guys are still good shooters, but their focus is the hunt, right? Not the gear. The gear does not make the hunter. These guys, I honestly think you could give them just about anything, any bow you wanted to, and they would come out successful. So yes, they invest in quality gear. All of these guys do. They're invested in quality gear because the last thing they want is failed equipment on a hunt. But they dial that gear into themselves, and then they implement all of these, or they've developed all of these traits over time. And that is what has made them successful. We see a lot of people really get hung up on the gear side of things. What's the best arrow? What's the overall arrow weight? FOC. I can assure you, majority of these guys are not concerned with that whatsoever at all. You can give them whatever, they'll go out and they will make things happen, and they will be successful in the woods time and time again. So I'd be curious what you guys' thoughts are. What traits do you guys see that makes, that you see in the guys that are ultimately successful over and over again? I'm curious. Again, these are just some traits that I've observed, that I've been fortunate enough to sit down and speak with a lot of these individuals or interact with them in my shop and kind of pick their brain. And I think those are three commonalities that I have come up with or seen across the board. And again, they put these things into action, and I can count on it every year. They are going to tag out, hammer mature deer or whatever animal it is time and time again. So that's the three traits, my friends: composure under pressure, relentless preparation, and then aggressive patience. They go hand in hand. I know there's more out there. So if you guys can drop some comments, give some feedback, let me know what other traits you guys observe or see, or what other skills you think are important to the bow hunter or guys that are developing skills or up and coming bow hunters. Drop some comments, give us some feedback. I am very curious to hear from you guys. But that is it, my friends. Another quick episode for you. Just some little bit of information that I wanted to share from experiences or information that I've been able to gather from being able to sit down and talk with all of these different individuals. So thanks for listening, guys. As always, we appreciate you. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I will see you guys in the next episode of the Archery Project.